Hello, everybody. Uh, Welcome to the back porch of the parsonage. And first, I just want to say we miss everyone. We can't wait to get back into church with everyone. And just continue to pray as we pray for you, and that day will come. I'm happy to say that I'm wearing a suit jacket today in honor of Charlie Johnson, who really gave me a hard time last video that I wasn't wearing a suit. So, Charlie, this jacket is for you. And you can see I'm wearing my official United Methodist red as well. So I hope that makes you smile. So in about a week from now, Jill and I are going to be grandparents for the very first time in our lives. About a week from now, my son Ben and his wife Rachel will have their first baby, our first grandchild, and her name is Reese. And as I think about Reese and I think about the different games that I may play with her as she becomes my first and oldest grandchild over the years, maybe one of the games I will play with her is one that you've played with your children, where you cover your eyes and you open them up and they giggle, and you close your eyes and you open them up and they giggle. I think we call it peekaboo. Jill's laughing over there already. See, it works. But it also reminds me of something else, because sometimes the circumstances of life become so desperate and so uncertain that maybe we have said from our own vulnerable place in life, or we've heard others say this, and I know you've heard others say this: if I could just close my eyes long enough that when I open them, all of this would go away. Gosh, does that ever really work? So today I'm reading, or actually talking, about the book of Lamentations. It's only about 4 pages long in my Bible, and it comes right after the prophet Jeremiah and right before the prophet Ezekiel. I want to tell you, it's a very difficult read. It really is. So I want us to go back to this book that Jeremiah wrote, the prophet, in the year is 587 BC. And the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, and his armies have swooped into Jerusalem, and they have destroyed the temple, and they have destroyed the buildings, and they have slaughtered the inhabitants, most of them. They have raped the women. They have captured the leaders and either killed them or carted them off with all the remaining people towards the west of Babylon, or towards Babylon, where those Israelites would become slaves for the next 70 years. We're told Jeremiah wrote the book of Lamentations, which means to cry out. And there's times today when we look at Italy and Spain and all that's happening around the world, and in New York City and New Jersey and in our large urban areas, and it's a time of crying out. I have to believe that Jeremiah just wanted to close his eyes long enough so that when he opened them, all of this went away. I started to read this difficult book, and I was amazed that in that first chapter, the words and how contemporary they are for today. Let me just read a couple. This is Lamentations chapter 1. How deserted lies the city, once so full of people. All her people groan as they search for bread. They barter their treasures for food to keep themselves alive. This is why I weep, and my eyes overflow with tears. No one is near to comfort me, no one to restore my spirit. That first line, Lamentations chapter 1, verse 1. How deserted lies the city, once so full of people. And yet, in the midst of this complete and utter defeat and destruction, as you turn through those 5 chapters of Lamentations, right there in the middle of the book, chapter 3, verse 22 and 23, somehow the prophet Jeremiah speaks and says and confesses these words that are just incredible. You'll probably recognize them. This is what it says, chapter 3, verses 22 and 23. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness, O Lord. Did you recognize that? In the midst of complete defeat and destruction, Jeremiah confesses and writes those words that have become one of the greatest hymns in the Christian faith. Great is thy faithfulness. And you probably know that verse. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. So I'm going to stop talking, and Scott and Glenna Hovermail are going to sing this great hymn, Great is thy faithfulness. And when it's over, I invite you to come back and to read the rest of my sermon. And I want you to remember and ask, how in the world did Jeremiah say these words in the midst of so much misery? Because certainly when he opened his eyes, things had not changed, at least not yet. So I invite you to enjoy the hymn and to enjoy the rest of the message.
Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. sun, moon, and stars in their courses above join with all nature in manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness, morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Pardon for sin and a peace that endureth, thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow. Bless